Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast by College Baseball Advisors. I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. My background is 30 years as a college baseball coach and current recruiting advisor. For more information about what I do, please visit collegebaseballadvisor.com. In addition, I've decided to upgrade the show notes or the description that goes along with this podcast. So if you're looking for more information on today's guest, or my background or anything related to Appalachian State, where our guest is from today, please check out those show notes. On that note, Kermit Smith is the head baseball coach at Appalachian State, a person I had never met before, but came to really quickly like. This is a very bright, articulate, really easy-mannered guy to speak with. The background, he's from Florida. He played at Pfeiffer for two different coaches. Coach Pollard, who was on the podcast previously, was his head coach his senior year. After college, he got started to coach in a summer league and got the taste for it. Went to Belmont Abbey as an assistant, wound up taking over that program as the head coach, which led to his next job at Lander, where he was the head coach for 7 years. And then when the position opened up at Appalachian State, was able to get the position and done a tremendous job, really at every step of the way. When you hear this podcast, you realize why this is just a great coach to have, a really life mentor too. I just love the way he speaks. I love the different from where I am and many of us that listen to this podcast in the Northeast. I kind of like the Southern coaching style. I like the way they have about, it's not just about the sport and baseball. It's about, bigger picture things in life. And Coach Smith, you could really see he cares about his players greatly. So it was really enjoyable. I'd like to remind you that this podcast is made possible through the sponsorship of the Mohegan Sun World Baseball Coaches Convention, which takes place every January in its 23rd year, January 15th to 17th, 2026. It's an event that is just awesome for the people that speak, the people that attend, the vendors that are there, the event space. It's really, really awesome. As I record this now, the Blue Jays won last night. So they're 1 win away from winning a World Series, have 2 opportunities to do it. For our sake, or for Coach Pete Walker's sake, who's a big part of the Mohegan Sun Convention, one of the founders of it. I hope he gets there. It would be a great achievement for him and for all those that are associated with that convention. For more information about what they do, please visit baseballcoachesclinic.com. And without further delay, here is my conversation with Kermit Smith, head baseball coach at Appalachian State. Okay. All right, Coach. So I'm very excited to have you. You're one of the guys that I don't really have any background with. We did have a couple of nice minute chat before I hit the record button, and I can tell already you're a really good guy. So I always kind of start off with these. I can read people's bios and I can learn a fair amount, but what's certainly not detailed online is just your growing up background. I know you're from Arcadia, Florida. You were born there. Were you raised in that same area too?
I was, yeah. And I've said several times, I mean, I couldn't have picked a better town to be raised in and whatever the words are, cultivated in. I don't know that I left there wise, but to learn wisdom there. I had 2 best parents in the world. It's unbelievable, like hometown. Like it is your typical hometown. Middle class, blue collar, cattle town, orange trees. My mom's side of the family owned groves, the Browder Groves down there for a number of years. So I grew up in, orange groves and picking oranges, and my dad owned a fence business, and my mom worked in the school system. And it was just, honestly, it was just like, it was one of those towns that you had a few moms, and you had a few dads. Everybody was kind of looking out for you, and you could only get in so much trouble because everybody would tell everybody everything. So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful place to be grown up and raised.
What's interesting is as you described that, it struck me a little bit because, like most of us Northerners who go to Florida, we hit these populated areas, So you're describing like almost the country. It's like it's probably flat, but it's really that's a rural upbringing, correct?
It is. I can get to a beach and like to your point, I think when I told people in college that I'm from Florida, I think they thought, sunglasses and, tanning on the beach. And I can get to a beach in 35, 45 minutes, but my upbringing was, very yeah, it was a cattle town. We hosted the Florida State Championship rodeo in my town. And we had a watermelon festival down there. So citrus was big, cattle
Yeah.
was big. Education, obviously, just it was again just your typical hometown.
And how about like your youth kind of through high school athletically? Obviously, everyone I get on here is a baseball guy, so I'm sure baseball was a huge part of it. Did you play a variety of sports or were you locked in on baseball growing up?
Yeah, back in, I can say this comfortably, back in our day, right? Whether you're playing it in an organized fashion or not, like I played every sport growing up. I played football through ninth grade, played just local basketball, just in the rec leagues, but I played basketball when it was basketball season
Right.
outside, or in gym class or whatever. But yeah, played basketball, football, and baseball. From very early on, I had a passion for the game of baseball. I don't remember I don't remember a time in my life that I wasn't completely passionate and in love with the game.
It's interesting. I foresee if I keep doing this kind of interview system for years, eventually I'll talk with kids that are growing up now, and a lot of them will say, "No, I pretty much played baseball all the time." But
Right.
it is interesting how I don't think if we talk to your average 16-year-old in the United States now, they're hooping it up, they're playing football with their buddies, and I'm not here to debate whether it's better or worse, but it's certainly different. At what point um, in high school did you realize I'm good enough to play college baseball and I'm going to go that route?
Honestly, probably not until I got an opportunity after my senior year. It was, I listened to your podcast with Coach Pollard, and I think, that timeline and that age, we played American Legion baseball and, Babe Ruth and those kind of things. And if there happened to be a coach there, I remember being invited to, or somehow or another getting invited to a camp my senior year at DeSoto County High School in the state of Florida, and it was over in Winter Haven when the Indians were still spring training there. And I remember looking, I was in the dugout getting ready for a game, and obviously you met all the kids that were there that day, right? And I didn't know any of them. And I remember looking down, and right behind home plate was Mike Martin. And I kind of looked around, and I started really paying attention to who was in the dugout, and I was like, I don't know how I got here. Like, I mean, I was a fish out of water there for sure. But no, and I thought it was probably the skill set that I was trying to be recruited. I knew that I wanted to play college baseball. I went to as many workouts as I could. I went to Weber. Was a bunch of kids from my high school went to Weber International over there in Babson Park, Florida. Went up to Flagler and worked out up there, and Pfeiffer, where I ended up attending. Went up there and worked out, and the guy that I worked out for ended up getting the job at Campbell, a guy named Chip Smith. And so when I got to Pfeiffer after committed there, there wasn't even a coach there for a month, and that was kind of interesting. And was very fortunate to walk into two incredible coaches that helped kind of pave my path for the rest of my life until today. But yeah, it was a different time for sure. But at the same time, I wasn't a blue chip. I wasn't a guy that was going to be recruited by a ton of schools. But I was very fortunate to find a place that, saw value in me and had the opportunity to get an education while playing baseball. And again, come across two coaches that, really impacted me and the way that I thought about the game and ultimately the way that I've coached it for the last 26 years.
So the interesting thing there is, and I've heard this from other people, that was a time when you were in high school where you could go to places, whether they were NAIA or D2, and you could basically work out. Like there wasn't camps. You would just go, they would just basically try you out. Is that accurate? Yeah,
And
right.
yeah, they would just have tryouts, showcases as maybe we call them now.
Yep.
Yeah, we would just go there and, pay her $75 or whatever and
Right, right.
have a day to try out. It was funny with the one that I don't know if you know Dave Barnett, that he just retired from Flagler.
Yeah.
But I went to one there my senior year, and this is not why you called me, but this is a funny story. But so I went there my senior year for a workout, and basically it was again, to your point, this was a different day and age. So
Yep.
let's just say there was 100 kids there. We got to 2:30 and like 75 kids left, and 25 kids stayed and played a game. And so basically the top 25 of that camp, stayed around. And so anyway, fast forward probably 25 years. I called Dave Barnett. We got a young lady at our school at Belmont Abbey who was applying for the head softball job at Flagler, and he was the AD at the time. So I called Dave, and we're talking through and just making small talk, and he, we're just kind of joking about whatever, coaches being idiots or what have you. And he said, "I tell you what I did." And I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "1995, I had a tryout here." And you got 100 kids, you send 75 of them home, this, that, and the other. And I sent David Eckstein home. And I was like, "I got one better for you. You sent me home, and you kept my buddy Frank." And Frank, so I get off the phone with Dave Barnett, and I called my buddy Frank. I said, "Frank, for one day, you were better than David Eckstein. So congratulations."
You know what? To baseball, most people would have sent David Eckstein home, probably. Right? And to that point, which we'll talk about later, he would probably be overlooked big time today in terms of metrics and all that stuff, right? Maybe the Greg Maddoxes of the world get past. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was elite with the movement, but yeah, now it's a different world. I'm not going to say it's better or worse. It's different.
Right.
Before I ask you about being at Pfeiffer, you are a lot of guys that I've had on here have had Florida backgrounds, but you have the Florida roots. Now that you've had your perspective of coaching in college, is the baseball at the high school level in Florida way better than everyone else? Like, is it better than what's in North Carolina? Is it the best players are just equally good? What would you say just about the overall level of high school baseball in Florida when you were playing?
Again, I'm from a unique part of the state. I think what the state has going for it, and this is really any warm weather region, is just that they can play for so long. And kind of back to if you'd have taken this a step further with what sports did I play growing up? I was fortunate that I could play every sport just with my buddies growing up,
Right.
but I could also have a baseball game that night because of the weather, right? Like, so you could say I wasn't specialized, which I would have never wanted to be, but at the same time, I could do whatever I needed to do for a year. The reason I went that route is because I think you see people from other regions of the country moving to warmer regions to do this. So with that, if you are a good player, let's just say from New York or Wisconsin or whatever, and you move to the state of Florida, you're taking a good player from another region and putting it into a densely populated area that has other good players. So again, it just continues to rise on that. But I don't know. I think the state of North Carolina is incredible. I was at Lander University in Greenwood, South Carolina, and I thought we had a fantastic state down there as well. And I think you just, again, if you took it a step further, and maybe this is why you're asking me this question, maybe it's not, like, where do you recruit from? I think you just go where, you go where the niche of that university is. Again, kind of back to your podcast with Coach Pollard, one of his things that he loved about going to Appalachian State was the fact that a lot of people in the state of North Carolina love our university, and they do, right? So why wouldn't we take advantage of that? But also to say that there's not a good player in the state of Florida that thinks that same way of our great university, then we're going to do that as well. But no, it was a great state. It really is. I think day in, day out, they host so many tournaments, in a summer and a winter that you find yourself there, even if you're not recruiting a kid that's maybe his travel team is not from Florida, but he's in that region at that point. So, but no, it's good. I think like any place, it's going to have, densely populated areas are going to be better.
Right.
You look at your Tampas and you look at your South Floridas and, you look at your Orlandos and teams in those areas, like really populated areas, there's really good baseball in those. But, you come up here and, you get to Columbia, South Carolina, or you get to Charlotte, North Carolina, or Raleigh, or what have you. I mean, you're still you're seeing really good baseball programs, and we're fortunate in our state as well. We got the USA Training Complex over there, so I mean, I think that brings that national vibe, that travel ball baseball vibe of where you're going, and Atlanta's not that far from here, so it is not a stretch to consider the state of North Carolina, state of South Carolina, state of Georgia, like that we're in the Southeast, and I think I'll probably point it more to that. Heck, Tennessee, so. But no, it was a great state. It's very challenging. You didn't play bad teams in your own league and face good pitchers, and it had you very prepared for college for sure.
Let's talk now about Pfeiffer. So if I have it right, I may not. When you got there your freshman year, who was the coach?
Nobody. So when I got there for about a month, we had no coach. But my freshman through my fourth year in college was Coach Marty Reed. He came from University of Tampa, and then he went into the Dodgers organization. It's funny that Kershaw's kind of coming down the home stretch here,
Yeah.
but one of Kershaw's first articles in Sports Illustrated where he was coming up, Coach Reed was quoted in there as like almost being prophetic, just like this is going to be the next Sandy Koufax, I think was his exact comment.
Wow.
But he ended up in the Dodgers organization, ended up in the Braves organization, was the Braves bullpen coach up until about 3 years ago when he retired. And then my senior year, Coach Pollard came in, and obviously that, having him for a season, and didn't know obviously how impactful he was going to be on the remainder of my life.
So that's a perfect time to ask that. Did you realize your senior year when Pollard comes in, this guy's pretty darn good? Like, did you realize he was special at that point? I mean, listen, many coaches are, but obviously he's done tremendously well in the coaching ranks. Did you see that his career would go the way it did, or you were too young to be thinking like that?
Again, in listening to his response to you the other day, I think he's a little hard on himself. We all have that period of time where I was way more confident in my ability to coach at 23 than I am now at 48, right? Because now
Right.
I
That's a good
realize
point.
what an idiot I was.
Right.
No, and it's funny that he says that he needed to become more organized, because I thought that was like maybe his like very type A organizational skills. And yeah, he was very regimented in what he did. And I've said several times that he was able to be regimented and apply that discipline and structure to what he did, but he was also so relatable at the exact same time. Like he would, and you got to imagine like Pfeiffer University in the year 2000, right? Like it's him and a couple of part-time people,
Right.
like
Right.
it's
Right.
not like this humongous coaching staff that's making, $80,000 a year. But he had good people there. But I can still remember he would stop by me in right field and during BP of a practice day, and just talk, right, and just see how things were going, and just read it, right. And I do this. I try to do the same thing today, and not literally in the outfield during BP because I coach hitting, but I try to get around the pitchers and get around the infielders, and get that, I guess, that fatherly instinct, like get your sixth sense of how that kid's doing that day. But he was so relatable, but at the same time, he had his system, and the system was in place, and you could tell, just with how hard he was working and recruiting and bringing kids in for visits, and how he was treating all that yeah, it was going to be a matter of time. Now that I look back, knowing what I know, and not even about him, but knowing what I know about the profession, and like, what does it mean to recruit hard? What does it mean to, establish a program? Man, he was doing so many great things that I can look back now and say, wow, man, he was way ahead of his time in doing that. And, I think to a certain degree at those levels when we were there, you can literally outwork people, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
at those levels, you're the strength coach, you're the academic coach, you're the recruiting coordinator, you're the head coach, and you're everything,
Yeah.
right? And taking nothing away from your assistants, but you put on a lot of hats, is my point.
Yeah.
And he's done a good job, because each transition that he's had, he's not only excelled at, he's like literally been the best coach that's ever coached at that particular university. And he's been phenomenal. So the adjustments that he's made throughout his career have been phenomenal as well.
And for you, when did I'd like to coach for a living happen? Was that something that happened in college? Was it something happened earlier in your life? Was it something that maybe you started down the path of a regular job and then go, this is not fun? What got you that, after the playing career was over, into coaching?
Well, I can still remember conversations with coach my senior year about, how the postgraduate was going to work out. Like how was I going to go from playing college baseball to finding out if I was good enough to play independent league baseball to whatever was next. And so I guess there's a point in time where the epiphany moment happens where you realize you're just not good enough anymore. And I probably hit that later than I should have. And looking back, I was not a good player. A very good. I was definitely not a professional baseball player. I loved playing and I played hard and I worked hard, but I should not probably have had any ambition of playing with my skill set. But I chased it anyway. I went to every workout I could and every independent league that I could and did everything that I could. But I had a conversation with coach after kind of this happened about, working in a collegiate summer league. It was the Southern Collegiate Baseball League with Bill Capps, and they had a position open of player coach, and I took it, but I never played.
Right.
I just immediately kind of went into, and it was great because as you go into it, you're in this position where so many things are at your disposal with taking initiative, right? Because I worked with two great coaching staff was Rich Drennan, who was the assistant at Wingate at the time, and the other person in my position was Jeff Gregory, who's now the head coach at Wingate.
Mm.
So here we are, we're figuring this coaching thing out together. And Rich would have a vacation, he'd go off. So, me and Jeff are essentially acting head coaches for that particular weekend with college
Yeah.
age kids. And you want to talk about like, all right, how do you get comfortable, with your own voice, with your own actions? Like I'm literally coaching kids that are the same age as me.
Right.
And I'm the head coach that particular weekend,
Right.
or we are, and not
Yes.
taking credit, just you have to take control of, 18 to 22-year-olds and in a summer league. So I thought that immediately kind of propelled me into that. And then there was discussions with Coach Pollard about potentially coming back to Pfeiffer, and ended up a job was open at Belmont Abbey where it supplied some housing and things of that nature, which looking back, I should have never gone back to Pfeiffer to coach, and I didn't. I'm very thankful for that
Right.
because I needed to separate myself from the people that I played with.
Understood.
And but the Belmont Abbey thing opened up, and it was a dream come true. It really was. I got a chance to take a lot of initiative, got a chance to, put my stamp on a lot of things in that program. And, at the end of that year, we went to a regional. I was an assistant there, obviously. And at the end of that year, we went to a regional and ended up being named the head coach, which was incredible. So just, yeah, I got started really early. And but I guess somewhere in that process, to answer your question, I'm not trying to write my resume with you here, but somewhere in that process, I would be playing now if I was allowed to, like I mean, I
Right.
just loved it. I mean, I loved baseball, but I guess somewhere in that, just the conceptualizing, like, listen, I'm just not good enough to play anymore. That's when it happened, and it just, you know feel like I've been following like a path since that day. It's just been really incredible.
You were at Belmont how long as an assistant?
Like 9 months.
9 months, and then you
Yeah,
took over the program.
I did.
So you what, 23?
2024. Yeah.
Right, 23, 24. So was that a learning curve in the non-baseball part of the job? Obviously, you played college baseball, then you had time there as an assistant. So I'm assuming the on-field teaching, the skills is probably the easier part than, wow, there's a lot of other things to do. Or did that administrative piece, was it easy for you or transition?
Yeah, I would say probably the hardest piece was like the team concept stuff, walking out and controlling because you can know the swing and like say you're stationed to the batting cage for the day. I felt like I could get people prepped to go take a good batting practice, or I could throw a good batting practice. And not that you're not in charge of the team segment of the batting practice, but like the first and thirds, the bunt
Right.
defenses, the tandems, like, and how, I'm going to walk out to the mound and like run this whole practice at, again, 24. Obviously never done that. The administrative stuff was really just work. like, and I was never scared of work, right? Like, does that mean I was good at it? I mean, I think I can balance a budget. Yeah, I got $2,000 to spend. I can't spend more than that, right? Or I'd lose my job. So I'll spend $2,000. But that was a lot of that, but guys are going to get in trouble on campus or they're going to make stupid decisions. And that was pretty normal. I mean, that stuff kind of took care of itself. But I'd say the hardest thing looking back was, okay, I'm going to go run this practice, and I'm in charge of the team concept stuff. So the pitchers are in charge of me. Now, when it broke off into everything else, I could go run the outfielders or I could go run the infielders. That was I could run the whatever. I could run that stuff. That was pretty simple, but not to say that I was doing the right stuff, but I could go command a group of 10 or so. But controlling a group of 40 to make sure that that ball in the left field corner gets to home plate as efficiently as it can, and coaching everybody in between. Yeah, that was a challenge. But obviously I think that it worked out okay. But yeah, I think that was probably my biggest challenge. And not to say that balancing a budget and all those things are like minimal. They're
Right.
not, but
Right.
really that's just work.
Right.
Am I quicker at it now than I was then? Of course I am. But you're a little more panicked back in those days, right?
What I always think about this back to my own coaching career. There's not a lot of, you work in an athletic department and typically your bosses, your administrators, they aren't really sports experts on knowing what you just said, cuts and relays and all that stuff. When you found you needed to learn more information, did you read a book? I used to have Ron Polk's book, which was like the
Yeah.
greatest thing in the world, right? Or did you call up Coach Pollard or call somebody and say, hey, our bunt defenses stink. What do you guys do? Or did you just sort of trial and error on your own to learn what you needed to learn?
Yeah, I had the baseball playbook too, no question. I remember that you remember the section that had all the bunt defenses and all that.
I do.
I typed my own out and put little Crusader heads all over the field, and made sure our whole team had a book of it. Like I thought that was awesome stuff, and we still do that for our bunt defenses now. But yeah, that was books, Coach Pollard, Coach Reed. I had very fortunate to have a lot of good resources. The baseball community kind of in that like Charlotte, Belmont areas, it's very, very strong. I was Coach Gant up at Catawba. He was always a great resource for me. And just Coach Griffin over at Carson Newman, he's been a great influence for me over the years. So many people that you just kind of come across, and I guess from very early on, it was Coach Lancaster at Mount Olive. I thought he was a great resource for a lot of years. But for some reason, from very early on, even if they kicked our butt, I was never really afraid to you know, go over to another dugout and just say, "Hey, listen, really loved how you hit today. Like, not just that, maybe we didn't pitch well or whatever, but I liked your swings. Would you mind if we jumped on the phone and had a conversation?" And that could be literally anyone, just someone that I had respect for in that moment. So I can't tell you the number of conversations that I've had throughout the years, and I think you gain so much from that. You gain lingo from that and
Right.
different ones to say different cues for different hitters or pitchers or what have you. But yeah, Coach Pollard was a big resource, especially as I got into those first few years and didn't see a lot of success. And at the time, there were some things that were happening financially there at the college that, with scholarships and stuff, that we were pretty limited early
Right.
on. And how do I deal with that? How do I inform or educate, or how do I go about getting more resources? Or because we're fundraising like heck,
Yeah.
we're doing everything that we could do. It's just scholarship money is scholarship money, and we didn't have a lot of it, and it got frustrating. But he would help me through a lot of that, and I tell you, the final piece of the answer to that question is I just tried to rely on my coaching staff. Was very fortunate early on to have some really good coaches. Chris Anderson in particular, we spent our last 5 years together at Belmont Abbey, and first 5 years together at Lander University, and he's now the head coach at Belmont Abbey. And he was at Catawba, so back to Coach Gant, or had so much respect for that program that when I had an assistant job open, I called Coach Gant and asked if he had anybody. And very fortunate that Chris was wanting to come over, and we saw a lot of growth and a lot of great experiences in those 10 years together. Our last year at Belmont Abbey, we went to the World Series together. And then we built a roster at Lander where had a lot of success there as well. So I think that relying on my assistants and listening to how other programs did it was very influential in getting comfortable with the parts of the game that I wasn't necessarily as comfortable at. And even to this day, I think we have to draw on what we're good at.
Yeah.
Right. If we're not good at something, then let's allow somebody else to do it, and that's okay.
Right.
I'm not good at a lot of things. So if I'm not, let me delegate and let somebody else take that.
I remember before I get to the next question, this might have been 2000. I was a head coach at a D2 school here in Connecticut, and I called Ron Polk's office and left a message in I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And this is, of course, before cell phones went out. I'm sitting there at 6:30 at night, and the phone rings, and it's Ron Polk. First of all, I go, I can't believe Ron Polk is calling me back. And he says, I never leave my office without answering every phone call, without returning every phone. Exactly. And I go, are you kidding? So I go, you're talking to measly old me about bunt defenses, or I think it was a pickoff play. And I mean, that's just the kind of baseball. I mean, you could make the case, because there's people listening who've never heard of Ron Polk. You could make the case he may be one of the top 5 baseball people that ever existed. He's that good of a baseball guy for sure. Yep. So anyone listening, look up Ron Polk baseball playbook. But so you just had mentioned at Belmont Abbey, you go to the World Series, which was your last year there before you go over to Lander. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
2009.
In 2009. Yeah. Was that a sort of a logical move at this point to go to Lander in terms of maybe a place with a little more resources? What was the impetus for that move? I guess I'll ask you.
Yeah, family was growing. My wife and I had a goal that we wanted her to be able to stay home with our kids, and we had a child at the time, our oldest Maddox. And we didn't know it, but she was pregnant with our second child at the time. And they were building a new facility, which was part of it.
Yep.
More scholarships. The Peach Belt Conference was a mega conference back in those, 2000s, and it was basically the SEC of Division II.
Right.
And Lander just presented a lot of opportunities. There was some stuff there with scholarship money and things of that nature. Obviously, I was going to end up making more money, which was going to allow my wife to go to more of a part-time role in her work,
right.
And allow her to stay at home more with our children. But again, one child at the time. But yeah, it was God's journey, man. We found out that we were pregnant with our second kid, and if I had not taken that job or had not been offered that job, she would have had to keep working full time.
Right.
And
right.
she was making more than I was as the head coach at Belmont Abbey, so it's,
right.
It is what it is. And but yeah, so kind of all of those things. It was I've never been a guy that looks for the next job. I really am not. I think I've applied for 4 jobs in my whole life, and just that came open, and really hit it off with the athletic director, Jeff May, there at the time. You could tell he had a passion for winning. Obviously, they were building a new facility, and just really hit it off. Greenwood was a great area, and all the things that we wanted to, all of our family goals, it was motivated by family. All of our family goals were going to be closer to met by that move. And on top of that, I thought we could build a championship level program with the resources that we had.
Just out of curiosity, maybe not, but does Maddox have anything to do with Greg Maddux or no?
It's a baseball flavor for sure. My other son's name is Beckett. So
okay.
Yeah, so there's a little baseball there. But you know how it is, me and Rebecca are talking about names, and you're throwing out all these baseball names, and then one lands and you're like, oh yeah, let's keep going down this road. So but a little bit of a baseball flavor to both of those names for sure.
Yeah, a buddy of mine has a son Jeter for Derek Jeter and a daughter Mattingly for Don Mattingly. Okay. Yeah, right. So, my wife would not let me get away with that stuff. But ultimately, you spent how many years at Lander?
7.
7 years at Lander.
Yeah.
obviously it's now many years after that still, but what's your recollections? What do you take away from those 7 years in that experience being there?
Yeah, early on, it was you had this. You started feeling how competitive the Peach Belt was, right? Like, so there was week in, week out. And not to say that I left a bad conference. This is nothing like that, but it
Yeah,
was it was it was a step up from what the Conference Carolinas was at that particular time.
yeah,
Since then, obviously, there's been a lot of realignment. But going in and experiencing why those teams were so good, and you almost have like another learning period, right? Like it's almost like starting your coaching career over again because you realize this is what we need to be successful in this league. The moving facilities, because we started out with the old field for a couple of years and then moved into a new field. That may not sound like a lot, but it is,
yeah,
because here you've got this team who's watching this beautiful facility being built, and like, hey, got to be patient, got to be patient. We're not going to play this season there. You got seniors who would like to play over there.
yeah,
Learning to recruit in a different state, learning how to use scholarship money and out of state waivers and things of that nature, which at a private school we didn't have at Belmont Abbey. So how to use scholarship monies the most efficiently. And then just, overall, South Carolina's winning those national championships back to back to almost back to back to back.
right.
So the state was alive for baseball. So that was really, really cool. And it almost gave our guys a sense of like, okay, well, you can go do this. And then really once it started firing off, it was awesome. So it was kind of like continuing to keep the ship steered the right way. So, your first regional or first conference tournament win, first conference tournament championship berth, first regional, two trips to the College World Series, and it was just once it got to where we wanted it to go, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, a lot of learning. I mean, just really a lot of learning, a lot of maturity, and obviously a very passionate university that wanted to win. So, not unlike Belmont Abbey, I felt like there was a lot of pressure that was put on by us and our coaching staff because we wanted to go win.
Yep.
I thought that there was a lot of pressure at Lander because everybody in the community and everything else, it was very close-knit community, and you could tell they wanted to win, and it meant a lot when we were able to deliver on that.
I think I have this timeline correct, but you correct me if I'm wrong. When you go to App State, it was Pollard the head coach and left. Is that why the position came open? Is that the right timing? Oh, it's
No,
not.
one in
Okay.
between. Yep,
Oh,
one in
okay.
between. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I did not apply for it the year that he left and went to Duke. We had been there. We had been at Lander for 3 years, and we just made our first regional. And I just and again, I'm not saying I would have got the job because that's not what I'm insinuating at all. But I just felt very at peace with where we were. It was something that we had some conversations. Just my wife and I, if that's something that we wanted to pursue at that point in our marriage and
Yep.
everything else, and it wasn't. We felt we had been treated very fairly at Lander, and we were there to do something specific, and we didn't feel like we had achieved that yet. So yeah, we didn't pursue it, but we thought about it.
Okay. So then obviously it comes open again, and now
Mhm.
that's 4 years after that last time. Um, you had said that and I to me the best coaches are the ones that do the great job and let the next opportunity come along. So was that something that App State you sought out? Did they seek you? Or I guess I'll just say, what got you to App State? What was the impetus to go there? Just now to Division I in a great place?
Yeah, again, like Coach Pollard stated and I stated, it's got a great reputation within the state of North Carolina and nationally. There's nothing to really, I mean, it's an incredible university, an incredible athletic department. And I thought they went into the Sun Belt Conference. They were not in the Sun Belt when Coach Pollard was here, but they entered the Sun Belt, which top five league in the country, which I think that's got some attraction. You want to go coach it at the highest level possible to have a chance to play it at the highest level possible. So when if I was going to leave an unbelievable situation, I wanted it to be for a good situation. Obviously, Coach Pollard's connection to myself and the university and the baseball program specifically was, um, there's no question that that had some influence over the whole process.
Yep.
But no, I could just tell from very early on in conversations. Received a phone call from one of the people that was leading the search committee, Jonathan Reeder, who's now my boss. And just I could tell from very early on in the conversation that there was interest both ways. And I felt like they had a real intrigue in learning more about me. And I could tell that there was enough there that I wanted to learn more about them. And, got on campus, got to meet, my current athletic director, Doug Gillen, and just all of the support staff. And, just kind of back to, early on in your coaching career where you're wearing so many hats, and to look at something like this, and you're going to have a strength coach, and you're going to have an athletic trainer that spends all 12 months with you, and you're going to have assistants that you could hold on to for a number of years, a budget that will allow you to treat, student athletes, fairly. And all those things were just so exciting. And then you talk about Boone, North Carolina. I mean, what an incredible place to raise kids. And it was just kind of one of those things, the more that I learned, and I guess it's reciprocated because the more that they learned, we just felt like it was going to be a really good thing. And then here we are 10 years later, and college athletics over the last 10 years, over the last 5 years, has changed as much as it has in the first 100 years of existence. And I think you learn a lot about people during those times, right? Like COVID happens. How does that respond? One-time transfer rule happens. Guys get extra years of eligibility. NIL happens. Now revenue share happens, and now two-time transfer rule. Or you can transfer as much as you want. So when you're going through that, man, if you're not going through it with the right people, you're going to lose your mind, because especially for people that are like-minded and what you're here for, which, quite frankly, I'm here for the student athlete. That's it, right? I'm here to impact not only their baseball career, but their life, and help them to a place where they get the diploma, and hopefully have seen what it looks like to be a good husband and a good father for 4 years. But when that is challenged by all of these factors that I just named, man, you better be in you better be in the trenches with the right people, because there's not going to be anything consistent over the last few years.
Yeah, two things I want to comment on there. It's really well said. This is embarrassing. I've been to Europe many times. I've seen a lot of parts of this unbelievable country. I have family in North Carolina. Several of them went to App State. They love it to no end. I have not been to Boone, and I have not been to App State. And it seems like I love the mountains. I love hiking. I love nature. Boone and App State seem incredible. Is it as awesome from the outside? I have a little FOMO of missing out on Boone. It seems the area, the university, the baseball program, it's pretty awesome. Is that accurate?
It's incredible. I mean, it really is. And what's so unique, and it was almost felt fake when I first got here. Everybody that I came in contact with that had graduated from App State, they loved it. They didn't like it. They didn't say, "Oh, accept win," or if you don't. Their whole experience was incredible. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody should choose App State, because every place is not for everybody.
Right.
But the people that have come here and graduated from here, they love it. I mean, they absolutely love it. And from a coaching perspective and a fatherly perspective, it's a great place to raise kids. School system's incredible. The university's incredible. I mean, you're going to get every season here. I mean, the summers are awesome. The winters are awesome. The spring's awesome. The fall is, with the leaves changing, is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty cool.
So the other part of it is, I really got out of coaching in 2022, and boy, has things gone haywire, right? I mean, haywire. Again, this is the first time we're meeting. I love your disposition. I'm sure you get fired up and angry at things, but you seem to have a good personality to deal with what I would consider as kind of chaos with. And I don't know if it's happening at App State, but guys coming and going. It seems to a little bit to me to take away a little of, like, I had a party this weekend at my house, and I had guys that graduated several years ago, and they came to the party. Like, we were together 4 years, and it was awesome. And I'm sure still the majority of your guys you're with 4 years, but these guys were really good players. Two of them made the big leagues. they would have left. I mean, they would have left for other, and I wouldn't have blamed them. I probably would have helped them leave. Is that you again? My question is, you seem to be have a great approach. Do you still get frustrated by the current state, or you just say, hey, if I don't have, like you said, I need to have the right people to deal with this, otherwise you will get frustrated. So I don't know where their question is in there, but are you happy with the way things are going? Are you frustrated, or do you just say, I will do the best with the circumstances that I'm given?
Yeah, the answer is not in wins and losses and good players and bad players for me, because we have we have far won more through acquiring through the portal than we have lost.
Right.
So the answer is not in that. The answer is in the what you just stated. You just had, several guys over to your house, however many years later that you used to coach, and the impact that you have an the life that you get to share over 4 years, right? Like that is that's hard to replace, but you have to do something about it. So either we can sit here and cry about it, or we can just go do something about it. And what we've chosen to do about it is just be more aggressive for the time that we have people, right? Like we're not going in this glass half empty or really even half full or anything else. We're just saying like this is our team in 2026, right? And I'm going to go out there. I got an individual today at 1:30, and I'm going to that at 1:30 they're going to get every bit of me. If I'm mad, I'm going to be mad. If I'm happy, I'm going to be happy. If I want to hug them, I'm going to go hug them. If I want to, slap them on the butt and tell them they did a great job, I'm going to do that. If I want to chest bump them, I'm going to chest bump them. But whatever it is, whatever that emotion is, I'm just going to go be that. And I think when you do that over a long enough period of time, because we can't sit here as coaches and administrators or anyone else and say, okay, now we have to go get good at it because it's going to change again in 3 years, right? Like we thought 3 years ago, the one-time transfer rule. Okay, well, all right, here's our strategy. Well, now it's completely different, right? So that strategy, whatever it was, doesn't work. So it's not the strategy to win. Like that's what you got to lose that. There will always be a strategy to win, and you will always have a team. Okay, so in that particular, when somebody says play ball, and that's your group, and I'm fortunate this little door right here, you see it open, and probably that's the locker room, right? So that locker room is going to be full of guys, right? And I've got the opportunity to go impact them every day in some form or fashion, and they just I need to make sure that they get every bit of me every day. I'm going to expect that from them, but they're going to get that from me every day. And regardless of what happens the next
Yeah.
day, the next
Right.
year, whatever, there's no regret in that, right? Like I'll put my head on the pillow at night, and so will they. And but yeah, I mean, you get the opportunity to coach kids, and I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Like that's incredible. I love what I do every day, and if they're challenging circumstances, then there just are. But that's no different in any profession, right? Like any profession is going to provide, stumbling blocks for success. So, we're going to go put a good team together every year, and we're going to coach the heck out of them every year, and we're going to do it as good as we are capable of doing it, and a long enough timeline that'll get out, right? And that'll be what we're known for, and what people want to be a part of.
That was well said. Two last questions for you. Number one is the field as awesome as it looks?
It is.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
special it's basically in the wood, like the pictures, of course, you see on social media. It looks just incredible. It's a pretty special place, it seems.
Yeah, and again, off of your interview with Coach Pollard, the foundation for was here when we got here, and little did I know, when we went through that returf process, and we're looking at all the details. Okay, what kind of turf do you have in the dugouts? How do you transition this? How big is the A in center field? What App State behind? What color here? What color there? Little did we know that first picture was going to go out, and it was going to turn into what it's turned into.
Right,
And
right.
I tell you what, man, I'm glad we put as much time, because again, hey, this isn't why you call me, but hey, you got an old D2 guy here, right? Like I worried about if a t-shirt was going to be 450 or 425,
Right,
like I'm
right.
fighting for 425. Like we're calling Golden Corrals and saying, hey, listen, I got a team of 30 guys. Can you get me in there for $6? So here's like the first project I run that's over $1 million. So I'm sitting here like, oh man, like, so there's a certain degree, like you're overthinking everything. Like what
Right.
color is this? Is there? So when that first picture goes, in all seriousness, when that first picture goes viral, I mean, it was like a sense of relief. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
spent the money correctly, but what you can't see, what you can't feel on that picture is how well the field plays.
Right.
Like it plays, and the old field had kind of gotten to a point where like I'd be out there practice, I'd be done, my back's hurting a little bit, my
Yeah.
knee, my ankles. So like that stuff, that's what you can't see. And there's been a lot of other amenities that just the traction that picture got. Padded the walls, padded the backstop, got fire pits over here. We got a deck, a new scoreboard, batter's eye,
Wow.
and all the things that kind of track man at our facility. So a lot of the things that kind of got off and going. Now when you get inside of it, it matches as well, and we've even got thoughts to go a little bit further. But to your point, it's everything you see on the outfield there. That's a biology reserve. Everything that
Mm.
goes. We can't do anything out there if we wanted to,
Right. Right.
which is awesome. I wouldn't
It's
want to
great.
touch
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But it's when we get all said and done here, it's going to be an incredible, incredible place.
You said fire pits?
Yeah, so we put some first thing we did, we put fire pits down the right field line. So we got Adirondack chairs around it, and we'll turn the fire on, and you can, as a fan, you can go sit around the fire pits.
That is, I have not heard that, and I love it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. All right. The final thing then is, you seem, as you had said back younger, that you probably had your stuff together more than I would think many other kids did. But so I always kind of ask this question: what would you tell your younger self? But maybe instead of that, I'll say if there's a 16, 17-year-old kid, a sophomore, junior in high school, loves baseball, wants to play college baseball, is there any one or two things you would say, hey, I've been doing this a long time. This is a key thing that you should be doing now if you're not already, to ultimately get to where you want to go?
Uh, yeah, and it probably just all comes back to how you're living your life. I think that, it matters how you treat people. It matters the language that you use. It matters. I couldn't even imagine having cell phones back when I grew up. I really couldn't, like the distraction in there. Um, it doesn't matter what your friend from your local high school is doing. Like it doesn't matter who he's being recruited by. Doesn't matter how much weight he lifts. It doesn't matter any of those things. Now, if that motivates you, that's fine. But you need to put time and effort into your body. You need to put time and effort into your sleep schedule. If you really want to go do this, and I really wanted to go do this, and if you really want to go do this, you've got to invest time in your body. You've got to invest time in yourself and the way that you treat people and what comes out of your mouth and what goes into your mind. All of that stuff really matters. You can be a good player and you can treat people really well, and there's no reason to use foul language. There's no reason to use talk about the things that other people don't need to hear you talking about. You can be a quality person and a quality player and a great teammate all at the same time. None of those things need to be separate from each other. And you can also be a great student. So I think attacking those things, I would have, if I could go back, if you are asking that question,
Yeah.
what would I have done differently back in those days? I would have held myself more accountable for what I was doing in the classroom, what I was doing socially, the way that I treated other people, and how detailed I actually worked at something. And there's a lot more information out there now than it was when you and I were coming through. But you can really go put together a really good strength and conditioning program if you just research it,
Totally.
and again, back in our day, not comparing our ages here because I do think we're about the same age, but it was basically bench press and squat and deadlift, right? Like those were the three things. And not that those are always wrong.
Right.
There's a lot more things that can help bring out some athleticism in what you do. But if you ain't sleeping and you ain't eating, I mean, it's pointless. How are you relating that to your skill? And it's funny. One of the first things I say at our showcase is like, hey, when we get done, the first thing we do today is we're going to go run the 60. And I'll be honest, like 80 of you guys are still going to be on the list. You know, we might have 50 kids at that showcase, and like I'm just going to watch it. And it ain't even about a time. Like,
Right.
how are you running? How do
Right.
you look athletic? Do you look like a good mover? And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the outfield and or infield or your respective position you're going to throw. So all I'm doing is assessing movement for the
Right.
first 45 minutes of camp. So how much did you concentrate on your movements before you got? That's even before you hit. You
Right.
know, like so. I think to that degree, if I was talking to a 16-year-old who really wanted to play college baseball and might even end up having a career in baseball, whether it's a coach or what have you, I would just say, you know, treat people well, man. I mean, just thank your coaches every day, right? Like, your high school baseball coach might not be the best coach in the world, but he's there for you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you might not agree with how he's telling you to hit and run or whatever, but that I promise you, he's got the motivation that he wants you to be the best you can be. And thank your coaches every day. Thank your teachers every day. Go into class with a mentality that you want to learn something that day. And cafeteria workers, everybody, the janitors, everybody you come across in your high school, treat them well, treat your friends well. And if somebody's talking about something they shouldn't, don't associate with them.
Hmm.
Like because you're going to end up being a representative of the people that you hang around a lot. And when it comes to your skill and your game, like put more time and effort into your movements, lift correctly, sleep correctly. Eat correctly. Those things are so critical. If you're not doing those, then it really doesn't matter the rest of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Coach, that was really first of all, great to meet you. Great to just like, I feel relaxed talking with you. I love you. This is just great. You have a great way about you. I'm sure that affects the culture and the program and the way you recruit, and certainly rooting for you. And I say this most of the time I end these podcasts that I have to go. I get pumped up talking to these coaches and I want to come visit and whatnot. But since I have never been to Boone, I will get to Boone
Please.
hopefully really soon, and I will let you know and come. And I'm going to reserve a spot by that fire pit if possible.
I'll reserve it for you. You tell me when you're
Awesome.
coming.
You're the man, Coach. I thank you so much for your time in a busy time of year. I appreciate it.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you all so much for listening to today's episode with Kermit Smith, head baseball coach at Appalachian State University. Again, this is your host, Wayne Mazzoni. As I had said at the beginning of the podcast, I've done a more detailed description with a variety of links that if you're looking for more information, I think you'll find it helpful. That goes along with today's episode. In addition, I'd like to mention our sponsor, the World Baseball Coaches Convention, which takes place at Mohegan Sun every year in January. This year's January 15th to 17th. It's an event that I've been to over 20 years. And it's just awesome for listening to great speakers, being able to interact with them, having great conversations around the convention center just on baseball. There's excellent vendors. There's a batting cage with live demonstrations. There's an infield area where they do live demos as well. There's a coaches social. It's just a really neat event that's enjoyable to be a part of, and I'm happy to be a part of that event as well. So for more information, please visit baseballcoachesclinic.com. Thanks again for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Game Plan.